Hey guys, welcome to Is It Legit podcast. Today we're going to be talking all about friendships. How do you identify the good friends? How do you identify bad friendships? Should you cut off some of those bad friendships? We're going to talk about some pretty surprising statistics today about friendships and loneliness. And so stay tuned and thanks for watching.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about something that's affecting all of our lives, especially younger people. We're going to talk about the truth about friendships in 2025. We are talking about why friendships matter now more than ever, and then maybe some shocking statistics about making, keeping, and maybe letting go of friends. As we begin, please like and subscribe. We try to put out content that's helpful to everybody that we know, and if you have friends that could benefit from this podcast, please send it over to them and share. Nearly half of adults report feeling lonely or lacking meaningful friendships. It's a sad one. U.S. Surgeon General 2023. The average American hasn't made a new friend in the last 5 years, from another popular survey called OnePoll. And lastly, this is a good one or a bad one. Feeling chronically lonely can increase your risk of early death by as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. As a former smoker, that's a really bad statistic. So, Peter, as we think about this topic, what do you think it takes to be a good friend? How do you be a good friend?
Yeah, I've had quite a lot of friendships in my lifetime, and I know it took a lot of work to maintain good friendships. I think you and I have been pretty good friends, right, for a long time. And you know what? I was thinking about this. Oh, are you gonna cry?
I was gonna. Okay.
Can we just touch?
Okay.
But you know what I realize is we've literally been in contact or seeing each other every single day, right, for the last several years.
It's been hard.
And it's been
it's
hard.
been like smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
No, it's been good. It's been good.
Podcast ending right here. But I think you're a good friend. I think there's some things that we do that we can kind of break down and try to figure out, okay, what are some of the healthy things that we do to maintain good relationships? And that's something that I've actually been very, very excited about. I got into real estate business and whatnot. My real passion is to understand relationships and human behavior. And I've learned a lot over the years by reading a ton of books on, relationships and human behavior in order for me to have healthy relationships, not only with my wife. I'm improving my relationship with my parents, and then also, of course, have really good friendships as well. I was just thinking about, as I have a friend coming tomorrow who I've been friends with since we were in elementary. He's staying with us for 5 days, and I've been friends with, I just realized I've known this guy since we were in elementary, and we're still good friends. Now he has now getting his third kid, and it's just, wow, it's a long time because, we're almost in our 40s, or he's in his 40s actually.
It's 30 years. Which is crazy.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah.
And I have another friend that I just met yesterday, and we've known each other since we were in diapers, and he's been a best friend, of mine.
It's crazy.
And so again, I'm not talking, I know everything about friendships. I think there are healthy things that we do and that I am confident about that I think would help maintain good, healthy relationships. I actually had a situation yesterday with my friend where I wanted to talk to him about certain things. I was curious about certain things. I also, kind of talked about some of the ways it was making me feel about some of the behavior that he was doing. Not necessarily that was affecting me, but I was more concerned about him. So having those tough conversations are really healthy, but hard to do, right? We don't necessarily want to do that.
Right.
And so let's talk about the how to be a good friend, I guess, as a start. And then we could talk about how do you maintain good friendships, and also how do you identify a bad one and what makes a bad friend.
Right.
I think for a good friend, I think one of the main points is that you always want to be the biggest fan, right? You want to think about that. You want to do what is best for them or think about what is best for them, right? And so I think encouragement, life is really hard. And so encouraging that friend constantly about what they're doing right, I think is a good mark of a good friend. And something that I really try to do as I've maintained a lot of friendships, one of the things I actively do is I actually text my friends and just actively encourage them. Like, hey, I ask, like, how can I pray for you? Or, hey, I just want to let you know, like, thanks for being a good friend. Thanks for doing this. And then even in our interactions, I always try to like think about, oh, you're really good at this, or just some kind of encouragement to uplift them, because life is really hard, right? Life is tough, and you just need that person to speak out what is best in them.
Right.
And how often, do people actually do that? What about you? How do you say, I think you're a good friend, to be honest. What are some of the things as you become introspective that you feel like you do that constitutes you as a good friend?
Well, I'll kind of add to what you just said because it reminded me of something that, so my mom used to be a youth leader in the church. And she was in charge of all these college, now it's kids for me, but college students, right? Before I was this tall, looking up at the 20-something-year-olds thinking they were super, super old. But anyway, one of the exercises that she would do, and it would be very awkward in the beginning, but it turned out to be really good at the end, is she would sit everybody down and she would say, okay, I want you to say something nice about two people next to you. And it's like, you look at your friend or you look at whoever, you're like, and it's because it can be a little bit unnatural, but like you said, keep doing that, keep speaking positively about somebody's specific trait, somebody's specific action that you just recently witnessed. I do agree 100% that's something that I try to do, and that really anchors our relationships because everybody has a different skill set. Everybody has certain things that they bring to the table, experiences that I could never have had that give me perspective and encouragement. So again, speaking the good to people, I think is a big one. And the second thing, that's another pillar, I think is just listening.
That's something you do really well.
Tell me more.
No.
It's hard to listen sometimes because you have your own script. Like
Everyone wants to talk.
Right. Because it makes you feel good. That was one of the things we covered in the other podcast is like how to get people to build rapport with you is listening because their dopamine is literally firing as they're speaking.
It's giving them psychological air.
Right.
And that's something that not a lot of people give them.
I like that term, psychological air, because I feel that. Like fresh air. It feels good when you say that. So yeah, I think speaking positively, listening would be my two things.
It's good. It's good. Let me ask you this. Why do you... okay, so if you look at the statistics, and we have a lot more, guys, honestly, it's pretty staggering. Loneliness is an epidemic right now. It's a real issue. Yeah. What do you think is the cause? Like, what's going on in our society? Because I remember when I was growing up, like I grew up with a lot of friends, and we used to play outside. We used to just meet people. We used to go to other people's homes.
Oh, yeah.
That dynamic has changed recently in the advent of the internet, social media.
For sure.
So what do you think is going on in our world that, like the Gen Zs and the generations younger than them, like what do you think is going on that is causing such an epidemic right now?
I think it's pretty obvious for me. I think it's tech.
Tech.
I mean, if I could just say one word and end it there, it would be tech. Again, so many positives. So many. Countless. I mean, you can get internet in the middle of the ocean now with Starlink. That's crazy. But then, okay, I have to share. So my son, Alex, my 8-year-old, he's been doing chores. He's been doing scrubbing things, cleaning things. He wants to go play, but he wants this Nintendo Switch. Okay, what's the plan? We made a chart, saving, piggy bank, He even made a bet with me, or I made a bet with him that he wouldn't eat this Thai chili pepper, the really spicy ones. Like, Alex, you're not gonna eat this. I'll bet you $100. It came out of my mouth, and he's like, his eyes got like this big, and he said, $100. I need $450 for my new Switch, right? He ate it.
He ate it,
and I'm like, you can't drink milk for 5 minutes.
Dude.
And we put a timer on.
Wow.
The big timer with the big numbers. And he's like, he was freaking out.
You should take him video.
I'll send it to you.
Gotta
Yeah.
send it to me, yeah.
Of course, Jessica, my wife took one. So he scrounged up. He did all these things. He cried when he went to his friend's birthday party because his friend Freddie got an Xbox for his birthday. Not that that's a bad thing, because I told Alex, we don't know what he has to do or what his situation's like. So let's not judge.
Yeah.
Long story short, we got it yesterday.
The Switch.
We got to use one, because I tell him, hey, we could get a new one for $450 plus tax, but then you can get a game in a case and this and that for half off.
Hey, Cat Williams. Hey, I didn't realize I was.
So we met this guy. I'm telling him how to negotiate all that. And he's just like, I can't believe it. He's like, my dream has come true. He's literally like shaking like this. And I'm like, okay, now we have to set boundaries. Now we have to set, okay, what's next? How do you gain time for this? Yeah. And the whole time I'm like, okay, what about a 16-year-old who has a phone, who is, to go back to our topic, who has this seemingly interconnected world that he or she's connected to, but at the same time, that so many things happen in interaction. It could be ranging from pleasure to discomfort, right? Maybe somebody smells. Maybe somebody's tired and they're not really even paying attention to you. Maybe this person's wonderful, delightful. You gain this positive. It's the mixture of all these things that I think kids are lacking, and because you feel that you are involved in something that's digital, it's just not the complete human experience. So I think for me, it would be tech.
I honestly believe, just in that topic, I believe, yes, 100% tech. And also, to expound on that, I believe our home entertainment has gotten way too entertaining, where our homes have become just so comfortable that we don't have the incentive to go out. Because what happens when we go out, we have to deal with people. There are good parts to people, but there's sacrifices to being in community. Like, you got to have tough conversations, or you got to, kind of hold your breath on some of the tough things that they do, or you got to have conflict, and et cetera, et cetera. At home, it's just a natural human behavior dynamic where it's like, oh, wow, I get to play a Switch it is so stimulating. It's so fun. I don't have to deal with people's problems. I don't have to listen to anybody. I don't have to do any of this.
Right.
And I get to really just have all this entertainment. Of course, for adults, Netflix. I mean, adults also play video games, but you got Netflix. You have, these incredible... there's just... I have a virtual reality machine, right? We have... computers, right? We have YouTube. We have all these things that can really just create a lot of entertainment at home. And I also believe what happened in America since the 1980s is that now we're all into these big homes, right? Or 1970s, 1960s. We used to have 1,300 square foot homes. Before that, we used to live in huts. We used to literally... And when I mean huts, very tall, small cabins, right? And that was the community. And so it's not comfortable. What do you do at home? There's nothing. They don't have electricity back then. And so community was very strong. And there was a lot of incentive to have community. What changed now over time is that now it's we have these large homes. We're so comfortable at home. We have all this entertainment. There's just not enough incentive to go out anymore. But then we're starting to see the effects of this. We're seeing the effects of the loneliness because now they're not interacting with humans, but we are designed to be around human beings.
Right.
We're made to be
Right.
in community, and it's really causing a lot of issues now.
So we have statistics that obviously prove these points. And then we have some of the ways that we've talked about how to create and maintain friendships and community. Can we go a little bit deeper into how do you met somebody, there's a work friend, it's a hobby friend, or you met them at a group, which is a great thing to do, by the way. Like the idea of community. Like I race cars, right? And as soon as I enter the racetrack, like my mindset shifts. Actually, when I see the racetrack, I'm like, oh, this is my playground. Like, I don't care how old you are, young you are. It just puts me on the same level. Everybody's complaining about something that broke. Everybody's complaining that, they don't have enough money to do this thing. Mm-hmm. But like, once you do or get those friendships, how do you, like, what are some strategies or tactics to maintain them in your experience?
Yeah. First of all, can you see that I'm having an allergic reaction right now?
To what?
There's a show.
What? No.
I'm having a reaction right now.
Oh.
I took something that
What'd you eat?
It was like a probiotic. Anyway.
I thought you were just blushing because...
is my face red?
A little bit.
Okay.
But it's not bad.
Anyway, so how do you maintain good friendships? I think is an important question. And, it's certainly... We've certainly been through a lot of tough situations at times, and there are friends I've actually had to just cut off because there just wasn't any reciprocation with trying to maintain the relationship. I think it takes two to tango, and so if one friend is just over giving and then the other friend is just not willing to be a friend, then that's the other thing we're going to talk about next is like, is there a certain point where we just got to be like, hey, sorry, this friendship is not working out. This was great for the season. There's a statistic saying that the average length of a friendship, funny enough, is 7 years. You'd be surprised.
Really?
According to a statistic,
wow.
That's actually the average length of a friendship.
I guess we're almost done.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So this podcast is going to be the end of our podcast.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Yeah, please continue. I'm going to think about that.
I think one of the things that, again, some of the good things. You have to be really encouraging, right? You want to be their biggest advocate. You want to help them as much as possible. But also, you want to avoid paternalism, which is doing what you think is best for them, right? Or like over helping them where they could do things that they could do things themselves. And that's where it becomes a problem where you actually can be hurting them by helping them on some things. Like you keep giving your friend money, which he's clearly on drugs.
Right.
Oh, you're actually helping them do more drugs.
Sure.
And you're actually destroying their lives.
Sure.
More than helping them.
Yep.
And so there are good parts of the friendships. I think one of the biggest responsibilities as a good friend is because in life, there's rarely people who are going to call you out. Who are going to, when I say call you out, there's rarely people who are going to tell you the truth because they would rather avoid you, right? They would rather just like distance themselves or just tolerate you for a short time. But the real good friends are the ones who tell them the truth. Like, for example, if someone talks too much, right? Most people are not going to say anything because they would be like, I just don't want to like deal with him. I don't want to deal with that conflict. I'll just avoid the person. And that's what a lot of us do.
Sure.
But the good friend are people who tell them in love. You can't just be like, dude, you're talking way too much. It's super annoying. Obviously, that's not a good method to deliver something bitter. You want to deliver it with a little bit of honey, right?
Sure.
And so I think a good friend lovingly shares with them some things that they notice and they observe about them for their own betterment.
Can you give me a little example? Let's do the talking thing. Like somebody just keeps talking over you and interrupts you.
I mean, when someone has a dynamic of doing that, So the way I kind of approach issues is I try to talk to them about, I try to be more curious, like, hey, I just noticed that you tend to kind of talk over people often. Like, here's some examples. I'm just curious on why you do that. And I think that's a good, like, you want to come from curiosity, because sometimes, like, for example, I had a recent situation where it had to involve finances. So, like, people were like making fun of me for being so conservative with my finances. But then rather than just making fun of me and criticizing me for the way I handle my finances, it's like, why not come from curiosity, right? And that's what I would want. It's like, hey, find out more about why I do certain things. Same thing with the guy who talks too much. You want to find out why the person talks so much. Oh, when I was young, I have 4 brothers and my brothers never let me talk. And so, like, I had to actually be quiet. And so you start bringing up things within them. It's like, oh, so that's why you act in that way. And then once you start getting understanding, then you could start, you could begin to make a challenge of behaving in certain ways, because you have to tell the person, hey, by the way, if you continue on this path, because you have to ask them, like, hey, why do you think, because you keep telling me you struggle with, maintaining friends or having friends. Why do you think that happens? And you kind of want to bring that, together and be like, hey, have you thought that it could also be the fact that you talk over people and you never let people speak? And that's, I think that's a good conversation to get them to change their behavior for their own betterment, so they can be, more a better person in community. Then they're going to start getting invited more. They're going to want people around them more. If he's a better listener, people are going to want to be around him more. And I think ultimately that's what people want. It's just sometimes there's not a person to call them out, to tell them how to get more friends or how to be around more people.
Yeah, I think that's it's difficult for most people to tackle, that tact of conversation and how to have some honey, with the
Bitterness,
the bitterness, kind of balance that out. But there are, like we've covered it in our previous podcast, there's different techniques out there, but I think that is a very important thing, is having the courage. Because I felt it, where it's like, oh man, my mind will create a story that's not really real or helpful. It's like, oh wow, I should probably, like, I'm drawing conclusions about this person without trying to understand or try to influence it. And having a plan around that, to then I can say, okay, I've tried this and it doesn't work, and it hasn't been working. And then I think maybe that's a good segue into the next topic, which is like, how do you, what are the signs of a good friend and a bad one? So I guess we're kind of straddling both things, right? What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, let's talk about the good friend, just to get that done. Yeah. So someone who listens, someone who asks you how you're doing without you going through something, right? You don't necessarily have to be like, you don't necessarily have to have a venting bomb on you in order for you to ask them, how they're doing, right? Someone who respects your boundaries. Like, hey, I don't like it when you come over to my house and just destroy, like, make a mess, right? And then someone who respects that. I think there should be like healthy boundaries between friends. Someone who celebrates your wins, like authentically celebrates your wins. Or if the relationship is one-sided, I think. Sorry, that's a bad friend. We'll get there, but someone who's reliable, someone whom you could trust. If for example, like, hey, we're gonna meet up at this one pub, and the person consistently shows up late or doesn't show up to friend things. I mean, I think you don't want that, right? As a friend, like, you need someone who's reliable. That's being a good friend, is by being trustworthy and being reliable. I can count on you on hard times, and I can count on you that you do what you say you're going to do. I think some things about bad friends is someone who like the opposite, someone who repeatedly crosses boundaries, uses you, or manipulates you, or only shows up when it benefits them. You know what I mean? I think, yeah, I think I don't think a bad friend is someone who necessarily is someone you disagree with either, right? Because we're all going to have disagreements.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think this is another big problem with what's going on with the loneliness epidemic is that we are cutting people off just because they disagree with us. And it's like, man, even me and my wife don't disagree. We agree on a lot of things, but we don't agree on everything. And so just because you're on the left, just because you're on the right, just because you believe in this and I believe in that, doesn't mean we can't be friends. And I think the position that we should be having is, hey, let me hear your points. And then rather than trying to convert each other, let the person know both should be respectful of our beliefs. But then ultimately it's our choice as adults to choose what we want to believe in or what we want to support or what we want to do. Obviously, there's like limitations. If you believe in murder, right? You just really love murdering people. I'm going to be like, no, I can't be friends with that. But for the most part, like if you're right and I'm left, I think we could still be friends. So
yeah, well, that's where the being in community and being, we call it like belly to belly with people, face to face. I think that's where you build up that tolerance to listen to somebody speak and it not be perfectly aligned with what you think. And then having them articulate or give points behind those things. And then it kind of gets you to think, oh, wow, I've never thought about that in this way. And I think you can even train yourself to do that even online. Like we talked about a specific podcast that we both listened to. And I love the verbal jousting that happens on this podcast.
Yeah, the All In podcast.
Which is like the highest level of people disagreeing, because they have hundreds of employees that just listen to them, right?
Yeah, and they're billionaires. And they have, and of course they're going to have differing thoughts. Like there's literally people who are on the right, on the left politically, right, but they're still in, communication.
In the way, what I appreciate about, you is that when you talk to somebody about a disagreement, I think the setup is really, it's obviously you've been practicing it over many years and there's a lot of trial and error. And we do it, to be fair, in our business every day. We're always negotiating with people. I've had agents, clients yell at me, and it's like after they yell, you listen to them do these techniques, and they come back to baseline and be like, "I'm so sorry."
Yeah,
but it's being kind of having the taste of discomfort and disagreement by exposing yourself to it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not specifically in person, although that's really the ultimate form, I think that's where the muscles get built.
Yeah.
So
I think we should talk about when should you cut a friend off? Like when is that point for you, John, where it's just, and I'm sure you've had to do this before, right?
This is a tough one for me.
I know, because you especially.
Yeah, so when should you cut off a friend? I've struggled with this because I've always been somehow in the middle of people a lot. And like one of the common things that my wife teases me about is I become friends with everybody, right? So one of the things about my personality is that I kind of mediate between people a lot because I don't really have too many enemies because of my personality. Like I'm not very cut and dry. On certain things, yes. Like my kids especially, I'm super cut and dry with my kids. But in terms of relationships, I'm just kind of like, oh, you think this way? Cool. I like you. You think this way? Cool. I like you. Unless it's like a murderer, something crazy. Anyway, I probably go too far naturally to accommodate people. And to me, the boundary line would come when, I guess for me, respect is a big thing because of my culture. If you're not showing me respect over a long period of time, and whatever it is for most people, I'm probably double that. Like I'll probably just take it for a little while. And then I'll realize, okay, there's a clear pattern of, the easiest thing for me is returning text calls, like communication.
Okay.
Because like how hard is it to give me a call back? And not once, but over like 6 months, right?
Yeah.
And I've had a few friends that I've not become enemies with, but I've just kind of let go. Like, okay, you're gonna live your life the way you do. Like I'm sometimes talking to their family members more than this person, which is weird, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, so I think for me, it's the communication because that really does show respect. And I really think that's the beginning of it for me. Like, what about for you? How have you seen that show up?
Yeah, I do like you. I feel pretty tolerant. I mean, I've had friends forever. Seriously, I have another friend coming in today. We've been friends since junior high, right? And I have a lot of other friends that we've just been friends forever. There are friends I've had to cut off. And as I've really audited my friendships in the past that I'm so glad that I cut off, I've realized why it was so good for me to cut them off in my life. And there's not like a whole bunch of them, but there are a few of them. And I want to talk about, without naming names, I want to talk about some of the reasons why I would cut them off. I think just to get really practical here, it's like, when should you cut off a friend? They keep crossing repeatedly, crossing clear boundaries. If the relationship is one-sided, right, consistently one-sided, where the person's just taking, you're just giving emotional, energy, you're giving money, you're getting, gifts, and you're giving, you're serving them, right, with acts of service, and they're just taking without them reciprocating. I think you should call them out on that. And if they don't reciprocate, that person's just a taker. I think that person just is a sucking of like your emotional energy, and sometimes your financial energy. If there's a deal breaker situation, right? Like the person, takes your girl or whatever. That's not good. And I think you have to find those who are really uplifting you in your life rather than constantly bringing you down. I think there's this dynamic between men where they're like we're like criticizing each other, and we kind of like make fun of each other. But if that becomes a dynamic where they're like being serious and they are constantly speaking what they used to be rather than what they could be, which is something positive, then that person's also not a good friend. And you have to call them out on that. And if they keep doing that, I think it's better for you as someone who has studied success. It's better for you to cut people like that off than for you to stay in that kind of relationship and just let them literally anchor you from you like living your best life, being happy, being successful, just living your best. Friendships are extremely important in that sense. For me, so people used to make fun of me a lot. I was a silly kid. I was just like a silly kid. I was kind of naive. And I remember I had one of my best friends when I was in elementary school, I had a friend, and he would constantly make fun of me, like constantly criticize me. But it wasn't just me, it was like to everyone. And I'm not friends with him anymore. And he didn't even ask. I mean, I don't even know if he cares, but this guy I used to hang around with, I realized he was such a toxic person in my life because he was constantly bringing me down. And it's like, it's fun if you do it every once in a while, but if that's like a constant thing, that actually speaks life into you. If you call someone dumb every day, you're gonna become dumber. Or if you call someone certain negative traits, you're just gonna become more like that. Oh, you're such a klutz. Well, then you'll be more like a klutz. And so I'm so glad that relationship cut off. And I would never resume that relationship unless the person's clearly willing to change. And then I had another friend in high school that he was honestly my best friend, and we would hang out every day. And what I realized about that relationship is he was incredibly toxic to me. We used to do all these things. We were into cars together. We would race. We would, do these parties, and we played video games. There were some parts that kept the relationship together, but it was also a very negative relationship where he constantly brought me down. Like everything I did wrong, he would just emphasize everything I did wrong. And that really made me feel subservient, made me feel smaller. But that also boosted his ego, which is why he kept doing it. He has his own hurts. He would bring me down, boost his own ego, and that was the dynamics of the relationship. As soon as I started, I got older and I didn't tolerate that kind of thing, then I stopped hanging around with, him. And honestly, that's what kind of helped my mentality. And so I think those are just a couple of examples. We don't have to talk too much about it, but I think there are just some examples of friends. I think there are friends who also are unhealthy in that they're like with you in everything and they don't call you out. And that's also not a good friend, right? It's like you see those group of girls and then the girl's like talking about her boyfriend and, whatever. It's like, oh yeah, he's a piece of crap. Oh, it's just like those negative friends who just, oh yeah, he's a piece of junk. He might not be a bad guy. But then it's like the people who just keep agreeing with you without challenging you on certain things. 4 boyfriends later or 4 husbands later, it's just like, no, it's you. And your friends aren't calling you out for you to change your behavior to actually have a good relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's what I've seen as well. So,
yeah, I mean, just to be clear, when you say, like when we say end a relationship, it doesn't mean, yell at them and berate them and, burn all the bridges ever, right? Yeah. Because we're human beings. It's a small world. You're going to keep running into those. But it's the idea of not having enough energy to spare. Like I want people to be around me that fill me up as well, that I can also fill up. And with careers, family, hobbies, for me, that's helped me to be very like, okay, I just don't have time or energy I'm already pulling on all, pulling from everything as it is. And when it's clearly not living up to, like the people who, like you said, agree too much or disagree too much, there's always a fine balance. The people who don't understand how to speak life into you, or sometimes maybe they're just regurgitating their hurts on you because you are like a comfortable person. I've experienced that, right?
Yes.
They like latch onto you. It's an emotionally draining thing, but they get filled because they have no other place to like get it from.
Yeah, no one else will give them that, that blood supply.
And I think it's, to your point, it's always a good thing to say, okay, I feel the discomfort. I see the pattern, right? Maybe use the rule of 3. It's like, okay, you hurt me once. Okay, twice. I'm going to take a note of that. This was what I was really bad at, is taking specific examples. And the 3rd time, it's like, let's sit down and talk. You also have to do the same thing. You have to cross that bridge and go over to the other side as well.
Yeah.
And for that, you need some skill and practice on how to have difficult conversations. That's a different thing. But you must also be, courageous enough and caring and loving enough to start that conversation.
Yeah.
And then once those things don't work, you just kind of say, okay, I don't know how I can continue to put energy into this. And, just slowly phase them out. And that's kind of the end, or cutting people off. I would assume you agree with that.
I would. Yeah.
So
I think it's good to cut people off at a certain point.
Yeah. And like you said, lastly, it's healthier to stay alone than to stay in a draining friendship. Yeah, I would 100% agree. It could even be a girlfriend or a boyfriend. And then, on to the next. So one of the things is, because of the changing world that we live in, we talked about tech, we talked about these communities. How do you make new friends? I'm a transplant, so I'm from Hawaii. I'm, to Washington. I've experienced just kind of changing world and changing environments. I've been to this job. How do you make new friends?
I want to use my wife as a great example of somebody who, I mean, she already had friends, but she also had a transition where she became a parent. And so she's actually been making a lot of friends. And I think because she actually said, several months ago, like, hey, I want to make more friends. I want to make more mom friends. And and one beautiful thing about her is she executes. She actually does. She takes action, and she really took action. And there are certain things that she has done. So I think one of the biggest problems with the Gen Z generation right now is that they are struggling with making friends. It's a good pursuit. So for anybody who is a Gen Z, please pursue friends, pursue community. It's hard, but it's so worth it. And then the next question is like, how do you make good friends? So let's just talk right from the beginning. You got to join some kind of community. You got to, there are digital communities. There are, Facebook groups. There's Instagram groups, interest-based groups. I have a cousin who's into magic cards, and so he has a community with magic cards. Moms, right? It's like, okay, I have a community around, being a mom, or even just working out, not going out to the gym, because you're not gonna. It's weird to just go up to someone and start talking to them, right? You don't want to be that guy at the gym. But perhaps like something like CrossFit or some place where it's easier to like talk to people and have that kind of, interaction, I think is really important. And you can find so many of these online. And the second thing I'll say is really, you got to be okay with being vulnerable. You have to be okay with getting hurt or getting rejected. And that's one of the biggest problems that Rebecca had is she was so afraid, like deathly afraid of rejection. She had traumas in her past, yet because she overcame that, because she said it's greater to have friends, have the chance to have friends than to experience the pain of rejection. And it's hard to do because pain is more impactful than gain. And so really, I have to say, as a precursor, you must put yourself out there. It's okay to be rejected. It's okay if someone rejects you and says they don't want to be your friend. You're not going to be for everyone. But then we're going to transition into how do you make good friends? What are some of the techniques to actually be a good friend, or be attractive to someone, to want to get to know you, to want to be your friend. And I will say, without arrogance, it's like I've had this situation where I've had situations where there was just too many people in my life, and I mean, there would only be like one friend that I would reach out to hang out. Most people would reach out to me. There were people who showed up at my door. Again, I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm just saying like this stuff does work if you do it right. And I think one of the techniques is you have to be a good listener. You have to encourage. Don't criticize. Don't be that critical person because they're not going to want to be around you. Don't criticize too much. And yeah, you may get another critical person and you might gossip about people and it may work for a little bit, but that friendship's going to break at some point because at some point, according to Stephen Covey's book, is like you're going to think that you're talking bad about each other when you've turned each other's backs, right? And it's all subconscious. And so you don't want to just be that critical, that social critical group because it's going to break. But if you want to be a good friend or be attractive friend, ask a lot of questions. That's one thing Rebecca does really well that I've seen her do with her friends. She just constantly asks questions. How are you? Oh, how is like motherhood? Oh, tell me, give me some advice about this because people want to talk about giving advice and it makes people feel good. And so Rebecca's right now at a place where she's like coming to a breaking point where she like gained too many mom friends that then now it's like, okay, then who do we hang out with? But one thing is like, stop talking about what you know. People don't care as much. Talk about what they know. Talk about what they're struggling with. Talk about talk about them. Make it all about them. And that'll make you an extremely attractive person. What about you? What are some of the things that you think could be really attractive to make friends?
Can you give me some advice on how to make friends?
Okay, so I feel good. It makes me feel good. I feel something in my tummy.
No, that's beautiful, man. My Jessica, my wife, recently invited your wife to a kickboxing class,
Yeah.
and she was like, she was so giggly and happy afterward. How'd it go? And she's like, yeah, we started like here, and then by the end of the car ride, and it's only like 20 minutes away, we were talking about life things, and like, she got really into things by asking the right questions. And it's funny because I heard some of the questions that she asked, some of which I probably can't tell right here because it involves you. Okay.
Oh, okay. Hey, cut this off.
But that's a great piece of advice: is ask questions, and there is a skill to this, right? Is how to build rapport 101, like how to ask the right questions. I tell my kid it's like the 5 W's and the H: who, what, when, where, why, and the how. It's like if you just stick to those things, you don't have to talk at all. And to add some nuance to what you're saying, maybe there's some people out there that you're like, well, I don't really know where to start. I don't know where to go. I'm just a 9-to-5 guy. I don't even know what I'm in. There are people like that. And I think, I think about like starting inward and then going outward. So you got to ask yourself, maybe verbally or mentally or even on a piece of paper, like, what are you into? What interests you? What makes time go by a little bit quicker? Oh, an hour went by. I'm gardening. I'm watching this show, or I'm training for this, or whatever it is. I like to go on walks. Well, there's a club for that. To flip the script, yes, tech is there, but how do you use it to your advantage, right? Like I'm on Facebook mostly for business and car stuff, but I see all of these groups that are super niche that you never would have, like there's a rucking group, right?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
these
rucking is, yeah.
Yeah, rucking is basically carrying heavy objects across long distances slowly. We're not running, we're not doing anything, but you're just carrying a backpack or some weight. Kind of goes back to the idea that when, humans are the best endurance athletes on the planet, what's the fact? We chase animals not by speed, but by time and distance. The gazelle gets tired. Oh, he's still here? 50 more miles, right?
Yeah.
There's all these things like I just talked to a client about archery. He's into Japanese archery, traditional longbow archery.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is fascinating. So I'm like asking him, and he's like, can you help me set up an archery like dojo? I don't know what it's called, but like a play. I'm like, great. We're doing these things. We're looking at things. If you start inward, I think the answers are there to what interests you, what motivates you. Try to find something that relates to that outside, and maybe even start online with a, but then that will eventually translate, hopefully, into like a group that you can meet up or talk to people about mutual interests. And now you have a common ground. It could be a running club. I could name like 10 different things that people could look up, but there's like unlimited amounts of clubs and activities. And if you're a parent, I mean, it's so much easier, I think, to have all these interest groups or play dates, different things.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that's a good one to keep in mind is kind of understand what motivates you and then try to find interest groups that match that, and then you're in. All you need to do is find one.
And try different things, And for anybody who's single, this is also a great way to meet people, right? And if you don't have any interest, if you're just not interested in anything, dude, go volunteer. Do something good.
That.
Like
that's a good one.
Because you volunteer at the.
You're such a good person.
Oh, thank you. I've actually met so many people through my homeless ministry that I used to do.
That's great advice.
People used to meet each other. I mean, I have friends who like got married because of not my homeless ministry, but it was the former homeless ministry. They got married because they were volunteering together.
Beautiful.
And what a beautiful thing. Good camps. What is it called?
Good Times. Yeah, it's a pediatric. It's a kid cancer camp basically, and man. It's amazing.
what a beautiful thing that you guys are doing, and then just to like serve together. Because I met people when I went there. We remember we did that event and we were doing these games, and I like met these people. It was a lot of fun, and I feel like that's such a good way. First of all, it's just good for you to volunteer. You want to really reduce your depression, go volunteer at a kids cancer camp and see how you're see how that just changes who you are and changes your the way you like your perspective on things. But then also you get to meet a lot of people who also are just like like kind-hearted and good people. There's always something to connect with. Like, you're not into archery. I know you're not, but you find that fascinating that someone has this like passion for archery, right? Talk about TV shows or movies. Like, that's almost universal. Talk about, hey, did you watch what's Severance? So many apparently it's a really good show. I haven't watched it yet, but I love asking people about their favorite shows because they light up like, oh yeah, like this documentary, blah 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 blah, and it's like, whoa. The point is, and let me give you advice for you Gen Zs or anybody who struggles with social interactions. You really have to be good at asking questions and then threading them to ask more questions. And if you struggle, simply repeat the last 3 words that they said, or the last 5 words, or just summarize what they just said, and they will elaborate more on that. Such a simple technique, right?
So you're saying I should just summarize what you said?
Yeah. So like, no, I'm kidding.
That's great advice. I really love the fact that you said volunteering. What a game changer. Get out of your mind. Get out of your funk. Help somebody. There's, and even church. I know we talked about this before, but if you know somebody who goes to church, there's volunteering at church too. There's all of these opportunities that help you feel that your problems are a little bit less important, right? Or as strong. And I think that's great advice.
Your mental health will drastically improve if you're in a community. If you're serving with a community, I think that's just a game changer. But, just in any kind of community, it'll be so, so helpful. So if anybody is listening, for 2 people who are in community, like I'm in multiple communities and I do have friends, like, man, I haven't struggled with depression for a very long time. I do feel fulfilled. I have people who encourage me, like, because I chose the right friends to be around me, not the takers, not the, people who criticize me all the time. I have the right people around me, and I feel like fulfilled every single day. And it gives me the energy to make more money, to become more successful, to do the things I have to do, right? Even your partner, like you could use some of these things with your partner. Be more encouraging to your partner, right? Say what they can become like rather than what their past used to be, right? Speak life into them rather than death. And there's just a lot of techniques. And so anyway, just to kind of summarize all of this, I think there are signs of a good and a bad friend, and we talked about some of those things. So find out what those signs are. Be good to the ones who are good. Call out the ones who are bad. And if they're not willing to change, and people don't have to, and that's the reality of life. It's like, you don't have to change, but I'm not going to continue to be a part of this, negative impact on my life. Sorry, this is just not going to work for me, because that's going to affect the way my marriage is. That affects your mood, and that affects the way I treat my kids. And so identify the bad ones and then cut them off if need be. And really, and then if you cut a lot of your bad ones out, start finding new friends. And you can find those new friends by going to all these communities, finding them online. You don't have to look anywhere. Just look online, right? Finding them online, or go to your local church, and then in order to gain the friends, be a great listener and a person who just asks really good questions, and then there's like a whole maintain this friendship protocol as well. And that's really it. I mean, that's the whole thing. Let's cure this loneliness epidemic that we're struggling with in this, you know, tech-filled society.
Amen to that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching, guys. Again, please like and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate anybody who's watching, and it really does help the algorithm for you to just hit that like button. You don't even have to subscribe. Just hit that like button, and it'll really help us. So we'll see you guys next time, and thanks, guys.